Okay, I think we can call to order now. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Shelley Carroll, and I'm Chair of the Budget Committee. We do have quorum, so I'd like to now call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to be with us. Let's start the meeting off in a good way by acknowledging that we are meeting in different locations today. The Budget Committee would like to acknowledge that even though we are in different locations, that we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also wish to make the following African ancestral acknowledgement. Though I'm not a person of African descent, I am committed to continually acting in support of and in solidarity of Black communities seeking freedom and reparative justice in light of the history and ongoing legacy of slavery that continues to impact Black communities in Canada. As part of this commitment, I'd like to also acknowledge that not all people came to these lands as migrants and settlers. Specifically, we wish to acknowledge those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We thank you for sharing that acknowledgement with us. We support the City of Toronto's ongoing efforts to confront anti-Black racism and pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. Thanks so much for that. Today's meeting is being held in person in the Council Chamber at North York Civic Centre. Members of the public who are registered to speak are in the room with us, and some are also on video conference. This meeting is being live streamed, and you can find the link on toronto.ca/council. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, members? Seeing none, then we can proceed with the meeting today. We're meeting in this location as a subcommittee of the Budget Committee. Councillor Lily Chang is with me, Councillor Jamal Myers is with me, and those two members and myself make up one of the two budget subcommittees that have been established to hear public presentations. Our City Council colleagues, Councillor Gord Perks, Councillor Christopher Moyes, and Councillor Amber Morley are meeting right now at City Hall to hear public presentations on the budget, just like those you'll deliver here. We have 39 speakers listed to speak at our 3 different time slots today at North York Civic Centre, plus another 96 are registered to speak at City Hall. I want to thank everyone who registered to speak to the Budget Committee today, whichever location you're in. For those who are speaking here, this is how the process will work. We have speakers in person and online. If you're online, the video conference host will activate your microphone and you can turn on your video if you'd like. I'll call each name on the list in order, whether you're in person or virtual, we have established an order, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak to the Budget Committee. After you speak, please stay with us if you're online, because members of the committee may want to ask you questions. After any questions from the committee, you can stay and listen, or you can follow the rest of the meeting easily on YouTube. The clerk has received emails and communications from the public about the 2026 budget, and those communications are being made available to council members on what we call the clerk's meeting portal, the CMP. I encourage the public to send their comments to the Budget Committee throughout the budget process, even after today, by emailing us at buc@toronto.ca. This is the public's opportunity to speak to the budget, but this is also our opportunity to consider your comments and input before we make our final recommendations to the mayor. We appreciate your taking time to participate in the budget. We'll make our recommendations to the mayor in a week's time in our final wrap up of the Budget Committee part of the process. So today we're going to start with many thanks to Councillor Chang. I have one urgent thing that I have to step out for later, and Councillor Chang will continue to chair for me until I get back. But I will, because I will have a chauffeur to get me to that event. I'm going to use YouTube to listen while I'm out. And if you are just here to observe today, do take advantage of that email feature, because we actually do continue to bundle up all the written communications. And I can honestly tell you that councillors read through them before we get to the special budget council where we adopt February 10th. We often have them coming to us and saying, what about this? I read about this, because they do read through the things that arrive on the clerk's meeting portal. So without further ado, we're going to get into our speakers. And what I'm going to do is, so that you're able to prepare, I'll call about 3 names at a time, so you'll know where you are in the order and can get ready to present. Our first 3 are Jane Garson, Arlene Diaz, and Cassandra Chum. And those, I believe, are all people here to depute in person. So, one more thing, that ominous set of numbers there is your clock for the 5 minutes. Try not to let it intimidate you. Jane, good morning.
Good morning, and
Go ahead.
thank you for holding these consultations and listening to the Toronto residents. I'm Jane Garson. I'm a homeowner in Willowdale in Ward 18 and a self-employed executive coach for non-profit leaders. I'm here for myself, but also as a representative of Seniors for Climate Action Now and Climate Neighbors North York. And I'm asking the City Council to ensure that a climate lens is applied to all city activity. The biggest threat to safety in Toronto by far is climate change, especially with the wonderful decline in major crimes. For example, because of climate change, the number of extreme heat events will keep growing a lot, and we don't want thousands of deaths from heat waves as has happened elsewhere. And home insurance costs will either skyrocket or be completely unavailable if we don't address our flood risks. The longer we wait to mitigate climate change, the higher the future costs will be in surviving it. Canada is lagging far behind most of the world in moving to clean energy. Given our very high per capita footprint on the earth, that's very unfair to developing countries who contributed little or nothing to climate change. And moving to clean energy would reduce our costs and greatly improve affordability. It's very closely linked. So I'm pleased to see a number of climate-friendly initiatives in this budget, such as the TTC fare freeze, an increase for stormwater management, continued support for bike lanes despite foolish provincial actions, and support for an increased tree canopy. We're also pleased to support social justice initiatives, such as more funding for mental health workers and community crisis workers and expanded library hours. Some really great stuff in the budget. But to have a safe, livable, affordable city for everyone and for future generations, we need to be making much faster progress towards net zero in 2040. We need to cut emissions by 1 million tons a year. This budget, as is, would cut 217,000 tons per year, barely over 20% of what's needed. I recognize that is in large part because of inadequate funding from higher levels of government, same as for TTC operations, but we could do more within the city resources. I admire and respect both the mayor and my councillor, Lily Cheng. So I hope they are reelected. I agree with them on many, many topics. Every year I raise one where we don't yet agree, and you know what's coming. And that is the significant overspending on the police. They want to empire build. They want to increase hiring instead of implementing the efficiencies recommended in the 2023 auditor report and for many more years by the Toronto Police Accountability Coalition. The police are supposed to report to the police board, not the other way around. Except for salary inflation, which is legitimate, their other demands are simply an attempt to avoid the same kind of scrutiny for efficiencies that every other city department is subject to. As mentioned last year, I'm certain everyone on council is aware that research shows no evidence that increased numbers of police officers correlate to more safety. The police have helped me But then I'm not a person with a serious mental health challenge. Some might dispute that. An Indigenous person, a Black person, or a person living in poverty. I urge the mayor and councillors to reconsider the police budget. In the opinion of every progressive organization and resident I know of in this city, the police increase should be negative, below zero. We need paramedics and firefighters. We need 911 staff. We don't need more police officers. Reducing the police budget would allow for increased monies for numerous higher priorities. Came today to support investing in important city services to create and maintain a healthy, sustainable, equitable, safe city for all. That's the legacy I want, and I hope you want. Thank you again. Any questions?
Thank you. And I'll just start the timer. Are there any questions of the deputy? Seeing none, thank you. It's
Thank
very
you.
clear deputation. Thank you. Okay, so we have Arlene Diaz and then Cassandra Chum.
Just checking. Just checking. So turn. Oh. Okay.
Good
Good-
morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair and members of the Budget Committee. My name is Arlene Diaz, and I'm a registered nurse with the Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I've been working proudly as a public health nurse with the City of Toronto for the past 23 years. I'm here today to urge the Budget Committee to increase investment and funding levels in public health programs and the staffing needed to deliver them. Toronto public health nurses deliver vital programs under Ontario public health standards. In our roles as public health nurses, we fulfill many of the cities of Toronto's strategic plan's priorities. We advance equity and reconciliation by supporting Indigenous and racialized communities who face systemic barriers by connecting them to housing, food security programs, and various health services. We protect and promote the health and well-being of Toronto's 3 million residents against communicable diseases such as COVID-19, measles, and influenza. We don't just respond when outbreaks happen, we prevent them from happening through vaccination, surveillance, education, and rapid response. We are on the front lines. Our critical work keeps schools open, workplaces safe, and hospital emergency rooms from becoming overwhelmed. I currently work in the Investing in Families program, which is a unique and integrated partnership among 6 city divisions to support vulnerable families on Ontario Works. My team fosters prosperity and creates opportunities for newcomers, refugees, single parents, and those affected by violence or war. We connect them to services such as parenting, recreation, childcare, housing, food security programs, and library resources. I'm increasingly concerned about the future of our programs given the recruitment and retention crisis Toronto Public Health is currently facing. According to CUPE Local 79's membership data, in late 2019, pre-COVID, there were 515 active public health nurses working in the City of Toronto. In late 2025, that number was down to 370, which is a reduction of 145 nurses. Many nurses are retiring or leaving for higher paying roles elsewhere, while new graduates seeking full-time permanent positions rather than the contract and temporary roles often offered here. Did you know that even after the city ratified our collective agreement in March 2025, underfunding has kept our wages to be among the second lowest compared to our public health nurse counterparts across Canada? Despite serving the largest and most diverse population in the country, our salaries have not kept pace with inflation or the city's population growth. Budget cuts, gapping, hiring freezes, and wage disparities for our predominantly female workforce are hurting our ability to provide timely services to the public and meet our program targets. If we cannot attract and keep the right people, we will continue to have vacant positions, overworked staff managing heavier caseloads, and continued wait lists in many programs, including mine. In closing, I urge the Budget Committee to increase funding levels and investments for Toronto Public Health's program in the 2026 budget. This will help to attract, recruit, and sustain our workforce to ensure that the City of Toronto can achieve its vision of a healthier, more equitable, affordable, livable, and resilient city for all of the 3 million residents living here, because they are worth it, and so are we. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputy? Councillor Chang?
Thank you. Thank you for your good work in our city. The investing in family programs is really critical. And I'm just wondering, what is the capacity of that program? Is there a wait list? Are we able to serve all the vulnerable families that need that level of support?
Currently, we do have a wait list. So there's 50 nurses on my team. There's one public health nurse assigned for every Ontario Works office in Toronto. And because of sick leaves, absences, departures we had a couple of nurses leave for other jobs elsewhere that were closer. So we do have a wait list currently.
Do you know in the ballpark how many families that is?
There's about 900 and more families on our wait list right now.
900.
Mhm.
And these are the most vulnerable families in Toronto who need that extra level of support to connect them to resources and supports to get them to a more sustainable level. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. And it's not just my program alone. There's many programs at the city that have wait lists. And it's because on paper, it looks like we have staff, but if a staff member's off sick for a year or something, we cannot fill that position with another nurse. So then we cover each other.
Do you know what percentage you're staffed up to right now?
We have a couple of nurses that have been off throughout the year, like off on various
Out of
leaves.
50.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lily.
Thanks. Just a follow-up question. You actually named a number. You said that there were at one point 550 nurses and there are now, did you say 370?
So there was 515 active nurses in pre-COVID, and now there's 370. There's been a lot of nurses that retired during COVID
Right.
after, or some staff, if they didn't take the vaccination, they were let go. So it reduced the workforce by a lot.
And if there is that wage disparity, this is anecdotal, there's probably no data, but if there is that wage disparity, I expect a
That's-
number would have gone to some of the private clinics that have sprouted up as well, where they're competitive wages. I know that's a problem with hospital nurses. Would that be a problem in our Toronto Public Health?
I think the wage disparity is more about the city not recognizing the work maybe that we do or the importance of our work. So, you know, a lot of the funding that public health receives, we do primary prevention, which we prevent people sort of from falling into the river before they get hurt.
No,
Not you.
I can tell
Not
we
you,
very-
but-
we very much value the work, but
Yeah.
the reason you're asking these questions is sometimes when something is run by a board, council doesn't have the details. I don't think I have a councillor member from Board of Health. Oh, you are? Oh, okay. As the items come through council, we don't always get the granular details. So this has been very helpful today.
Thank you for listening.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Councillor Meyer, did you have any questions? Okay, gotcha. I will, Okay, oops, sorry about that. I didn't have my microphone on. So it's Cassandra Churm, then Jody Smith, then Judith Lawrence. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. So good morning, Chair and members of the Budget Committee. My name is Cassandra Churm, and I've been a public health nurse with Toronto Public Health for 25 years, most of that time working with the Indigenous community in Toronto. I'm here today to talk to you about the public health nursing crisis. Retirements, burnout, and most importantly, low wages compared to other health units are putting the health of our communities at risk. The 2026 budget gives us a real chance to act to strengthen this workforce and protect the health of Toronto. Throughout my career, I've worked alongside Indigenous families to strengthen community health and support Indigenous children in getting the strong start in life they deserve. Some highlights include conducting thousands of home visits, building trust one family at a time, creating and supporting 2 Indigenous-led medical clinics, advocating for a dedicated public health nurse in Indigenous schools and being that nurse throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring access to life-saving vaccines directly delivered into community health programs that serve the Indigenous community, developing pathways for the Indigenous community to access other Toronto public health programs, such as our sexual health clinics, our dental programs, and access to life-saving harm reduction supplies. And finally, last year, delivering over 300 related workshops across 22 Indigenous agency locations last year. However, my greatest achievement has been serving as a public health nurse for a community that has every reason to distrust us. My responsibilities continue to grow. Last year, I supported additional Indigenous agencies, and this year that number will grow. I will take shifts in breastfeeding clinics with the goal of enticing Indigenous community members to attend. And I have also been approached to manage Indigenous students' vaccine data so we can prevent school suspensions, all while preparing for the next public health emergency. I take on more because the community tells me that's what they need, and Toronto Public Health asks me to do it. But it all comes at a cost. I want to mentor new nurses to take on this work, but workloads are heavy, positions are often gapped, and burnout is common. Nurses are retiring and leaving for better paying opportunities, not only in other health units, but outside of the public health sector. I fear my decade-long connection and relationships with this community will end with me. I say this because I plan on retiring in under 4 years. Not because I want to, but simply I cannot afford to stay. Public health nurses with my experience can earn more almost everywhere else in Ontario, much less across Canada. Even small units like Prince Edward County pay more. And they are renegotiating their contract this year, so they will likely surge even further ahead of me. Toronto has been my home for 51 years and my work my passion. But the cost of living and lack of pay equity makes it almost impossible for me to stay. Toronto Public Health often thanks me for my dedication, and for that I'm grateful. They've always supported me when I bring up these crazy ideas like opening medical clinics. But I can't eat applause, and praise doesn't pay my bills. This is not just my story. Studies show that for every 100 nurses entering the profession in Ontario, 38 will leave this year. Over 75% of nurses report burnout due to heavy workloads and unstable staffing. More than 60% of nurses are considering leaving the profession within 2 years, 40% of that through retirement. At Toronto Public Health, 40% of public health nurses and public health inspectors have over 20 years of experience, meaning they can and will retire soon. These trends threaten the experience, skill, and continuity of care for the residents of Toronto. The health of the city is at risk if we don't address this issue by increasing PHN and PHI wages this year. The City Budget Committee has the power to prevent this crisis. I urge you to invest in the future of Toronto Public Health and the health of Toronto by funding competitive wages for public health professionals now. With this investment, Toronto can retain and recruit experienced nurses and protect the health of Toronto for years to come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Chang.
Thank you. Thank you as well for the good work that you do. I'm just wondering, what is the funding mix of public health? So what percentage is the province and what percentage is the city?
Those numbers are actually probably above my wage
Yes.
page. That's probably a question for our senior management team. But I am aware like different programs get different pockets of funding. So like Healthy Babies, Healthy Children. So that was a program I was at where I was doing the home visiting. I don't do that anymore. I believe they're almost fully funded by the province, where other programs will have different mix.
Yeah, I believe a large percentage of public health is funded by the province. And I'm wondering, we're talking about wages. Is that not negotiated through the collective agreement? I don't think budget committee could change your wage through a budget decision.
So interestingly enough, that is a possibility because other health professionals or City of Toronto employees have done that. They've negotiated wage increases outside of contract negotiations. We've actually had this question a few times because it is unusual. But when we were at our annual nursing celebration and we expressed to the mayor our dissatisfaction with our contract negotiations, she suggested that we try to increase our wages outside of negotiations. So here we are trying. Yeah.
Who negotiated on your behalf?
QP Local 79 is our
And-
union.
And so you were not happy with where it landed, that process?
Well, we weren't happy with the city's decision to not give us a wage increase, that the CUPE had suggested for us. Some divisions got like a set increase as well as the percentage increase, and the city declined to give us one that we wanted.
Right. And it's my understanding that the province does not grow funding according to the cost of living of where public health nurses are serving, nor the complexity or population growth. Is that true?
I mean, that's my understanding. I mean, I can speak to Prince Edward County because that's, spoiler alert, that's probably where I'm going. So they have a ratio of 1 public health nurse to every 600 people, whereas we have 3, I can't do the math on my head, but we have 370 public health nurses and 3 million people.
Yes.
So obviously Prince Edward County is using their funding in a different model. Whether or not they're getting funding from their municipality to balance out the province, I'm not sure, but they're obviously doing something different than we're doing.
And did you know that currently there are consultations happening for the Ontario budget, and maybe there's an opportunity to also advocate that the funding formula would be different for a city like Toronto? Do you think that that would be helpful?
I think all fronts.
Great, thank you.
I'm not opposed to talking to anybody.
There is an online survey for the Ontario budget, and I encourage you to go online and fill that out. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Other questions? No?
No, that's it. So, okay, so we have Jody Smith next, and I'm going to ask Councillor Chang to chair this one.
Okay, you can go ahead. Thank
Okay,
you.
good morning.
Morning.
My name's Jody Smith. I'm a public health nurse. I work in one of the programs that visits new families, parents of infants and toddlers. And I'm here to ask you to increase the investment in public health, to increase the envelope, to invest in these essential, crucial, valuable services. We help families with some of the building blocks that babies and toddlers need to get off to a good start. So first off, we talk about like emotional connection with parents. We talk about protecting children from contagious illness. We talk about building, physical agility, gross and fine motor skills. We talk about building communication. We work on helping children with self-regulation. And we help parents and children to connect with others in their community and build a strong foundation. It's hard to sum up everything that we do with our families in a short talk like this, but what we do sets young people up for a lifetime of good health, success in school, happiness, life in the workplace. We help children to get off to a good start and have those fundamental building blocks that their parents can give them to have a long, healthy life. But there's a situation. About a third of the teams, an exact third of the teams of Healthy Babies, Healthy Children teams in Toronto are currently waitlisted because of staffing. We're having trouble retaining people when wages are higher everywhere else except Toronto. And so that means that parents of infants are waiting months for an initial home visit, right? So some of these blocks aren't there. So we're not there to help, and yeah. When we underfund public health, when we don't treat it as a priority, families lose out and children pay the price. I'm here to encourage you to invest in a healthy future and invest in public health.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Thank you for your deputation. Okay, next we have Judith Lawrence.
Okay, so I think the best laid plans of mice and men, I had it exactly where I wanted. Okay. So as you can see with my white cane, I'm having trouble actually with my digital stuff. So I am going to, instead of trying to talk to you in person and bungle it up, I'm going to try to bungle it up with my iPhone. And so I'm going to put it on this screen reader. If it doesn't work, I'm going to ask Jane to help me. Okay, so here I go.
Judith Lawrence, VIP, address,
Hmm.
2, Judith Lawrence,
That's just-
9:20 a.m., 2026 budget deputation. Thank you, councillors and city staff, for all the hard work done to make this budget work considering all the financial restraints. My name is Judith Lawrence and I live in Ward 18 Willowdale Lily Chen's Bailiwick. I usually fall asleep listening to my audiobook A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson, and the myriad numbers quoted do the trick. However, the numbers, financial and otherwise, in our budget keep me alert. 18.9 billion is a mind-boggling number. That's how much is spent on city budget. Affordability is the keyword this year. I am happy for the money to help tenants in dire straits. I am grateful that heat pumps and air conditioners will be available to some residents, and I am glad that city services are still going strong with this budget. Let's look at transportation, for example. 170 million. More electric buses and more subway trains make it easier to travel in Toronto. Thank you, federal government, for your help. I use Wheel-Trans as I am almost blind. The drivers tell me they are so tightly scheduled they don't have a break for lunch or washrooms. I do hope we have enough TDC employees to do the job. Keeping a fare freeze and giving a break on payment after 47 rides is good, and I know it is tough to do this. As a climate activist, I am encouraging you to eventually offer free TDC so that all people can move in the city more efficiently. After all, transform to Toronto's climate plan to reduce fossil fuel emissions so we can have net zero by 2040 is an important goal. That's how much is spent on city budget. 2. Wondered if all the efficiency reductions and deferrals make city repairs more difficult to complete. For example, we have a city-owned tunnel under Yonge Street in bad repair and totally inaccessible for some because of stairs. The city promised to fix the problem. After meetings and petitions over years, will that repair yet again postponed and forgotten? My word for this budget is decarbonization. There's a carbon budget for every division. In time, we will reduce emissions from fossil fuels and eventually buildings will have better green standards. Thank goodness for the New Deal 101 with the provincial government, which helps the city. Over and over, we ask for more intergovernmental funding. We need a new approach making the budget work. As long as I am able, I will keep coming to have my say so I can sleep better in the city I love.
Thank you. I hope you heard it.
Yes, we did. Thank you so much, Judith. Any questions? No? Thank you for coming and making a deputation. Okay, next we have Marnie Moody, and after Marnie will be Matt McGeechee and then Alex Leduc, who will be on video. Welcome, Marnie, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chang. I apologize. Some of this will be a repeat for you, but there is some new stuff in here. My name is Marnie Moody, and I am a public health nurse who has served the city for 23 years. I'm deputing to advocate for increased investment in our public health budget. My focus will be PHN wages and how they pose a retention risk, affect staff health, and ultimately impact client care and services we provide. Throughout my career, I've worked with communicable disease programs, including sexual health clinics. My current role is in case management, where I ensure clients are aware of their communicable disease, ensure they are receiving appropriate treatment, and their contacts are notified and treated. This includes supporting newcomers who have challenges navigating our healthcare system and clients with substance dependencies and other mental health challenges that need additional support and obtaining and maintaining care. The overarching goal of our program is to reduce and prevent the spread of infections. Staffing levels have not kept pace with Toronto's population growth over the past 25 years. Our current ratio is 1 PHN to 7,300 residents, whereas Halton and York Region have 1 PHN to 5,500 residents approximately. Due to insufficient staffing, many reportable diseases receive minimal or delayed follow-up, sometimes far below the quality of follow-up being provided by other health units. In the clinical settings, PHNs are often forced to focus on one concern, limiting our ability to deliver holistic client-centered care. For example, potentially losing the opportunity to start a person on birth control before getting pregnant while we are doing STI testing, or giving a client the time needed to feel safe enough to discuss an abusive or an unhealthy relationship. To be fair, managers have worked hard to find innovative ways to try and deal with increased workload and are doing the best they can under difficult circumstances with limited employee resources. Nonetheless, the workload remains overwhelming for many, and staff burnout continues to be a serious concern. As nurses, we are committed to supporting our clients. Unfortunately, our clients' needs are becoming increasingly complex, requiring more time and support that we don't have. It is extremely stressful as we know we are providing substandard care. In addition to our regular duties, we are also expected to support other programs during public health emergencies such as measles outbreaks or Mpox vaccine clinics. This often means being pulled away from our primary roles where staffing is already inadequate. Many programs are now facing long wait lists or have had to suspend services altogether due to an inability to maintain a full complement of trained staff. The North York Sexual Health Clinic has remained closed since COVID-19. Again, to be fair, management is trying very hard to reopen the clinic. But as a result of it being closed, staff sometimes struggle to find STI services for clients, and some clients have had to resort to going to the emergency department for care. The highest risk identified in the 2025 Toronto Public Health Risk Management Report was talent availability. The report cited staff fatigue and departures for other opportunities as key concerns. What it failed to acknowledge is the risk of these departures for significantly better wages and a more manageable workload in another health unit. To be clear, we are the second lowest paid public health nurses in Ontario and across Canada, yet we live in the most expensive city. Many staff cannot afford to live in Toronto, so why would PHNs choose to remain at Toronto Public Health when they live outside Toronto, have to commute, get paid 10 to 14% less, have less vacation and benefits, and have a heavier workload? For those of us who do live in Toronto, many are forced to take second jobs to make ends meet. Of the 32 health units that I have information for, 9 of those contracts are in current negotiation and 8 additional contracts will expire this year. So of that, we are further going to be behind in wages compared to other health units, which makes it hard to attract nursing into public health at Toronto. Until the provincial government commits to investing more money in public health and changes in the funding formula, we ask that you consider increasing the public health budget so they may address our wage inequity and staffing levels. By properly funding public health, we can provide the programs our residents deserve and improve the health and well-being of our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? No? I have a question.
Mhm.
Do you know what the current funding formula is for the province? It looks to me that it's 2/3 of our public health
Yeah,
budget.
it was pre-COVID, like 75 to 25 approximately. As Cassandra said, it really depends on the program, the ratio of that. Unfortunately, as you know, you were mentioning, the funding does not cover the costs needed for the program. Even the MOH for Ottawa, since that actually the day of the deputation in September, there was an article in the media about him saying we need to change the funding for our public health programs. We are not able to provide the services, or we're at risk of providing the services that we need to. And they have been consistently in the media since the fall, encouraging the province to change that funding formula. And I think that has to be across the board for all health units, because yes, we appreciate this is an issue top down. This is not, it should not fall heavily on the city to be funding these programs. Unfortunately, until that happens, that we're asking that the city help with paying, increasing the budget for public health so that we can provide the services that we need.
And when is the next collective agreement negotiation for Toronto's public health nurses?
It is end of 2028. We have a 4-year contract, so 3 more years.
So a 4-year contract was negotiated, but it doesn't meet a competitive model for staff retention.
Not at all.
And presumably you are also all organizing to lobby the provincial government for the same thing. And that they should take that lead because they are the Ministry of Health.
And I hope, and I know that was brought up at that Board of Health meeting, so I appreciate that too.
And can you just remind us, what is the ratio of residents to public health nurse in Halton?
So from the information I was able to find, for Halton and York Region, it was about 1 to 5,500 nurses. Ours is 1 in 7,300. It's really hard to, as an external person, to obtain that information. So it would be great if the staff, city staff that have that option, the access could get that additional information for the other health units.
And do you know how many programs currently have wait lists in the public health programs?
I know the program that Arlene discussed has probably the worst wait list. My area is communicable diseases, so I'm more able to speak to diseases and stuff that we're not following up or have limited follow-up.
My last question, is about the North York Sexual Health Clinic. We were told it was going to open this year or last year, and it didn't.
They've been saying that for a while.
Yeah.
I think that it is not just this. There is other issues that make it challenging to open as staff move to other positions or leave. We lose staff, and it takes a lot of time to train someone to do that work, having done that work myself. So it's, and you need to have committed staff to stay there to open it up. So I know they've been having a lot of challenges. And like I said, to be fair, they are trying. It's not that they're not trying, but it's really hard if you can't keep staff in that program and give them the time to train them to reopen that clinic.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your deputation.
You're welcome.
So next up, we're going to change the channel. And we have Matt McGeechee from the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Matt McGeechee. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. The Toronto Symphony Orchestra is a 104-year-old institution dedicated to bringing the joy of live music to the people of Toronto and to making an impact in our community through music. Toronto has embraced and supported its orchestra for 104 years and counting, and the TSO strives each day to repay the love, support, and connection that we have with the citizens of our city. The TSO is grateful for the investment in arts and culture in Budget 2026, specifically the $2 million of new investment in the Toronto Arts Council, which fulfills a critical component of the city's 10-year culture plan, Culture Connects. The TSO is a recipient of funding from the Toronto Arts Council through its Large Institutions program, and each year the people of Toronto invest $1.2 million into an orchestra that makes a meaningful impact on their lives. Last fiscal year, the TSO recorded $35 million in revenue, and investment from all three levels of government was approximately 16%, with 3.4% coming from the TAC's direct investment. You are, councillors, very well versed in the economic impact that investing in arts and culture has. I have probably given you a version of this very spiel. Every $1 invested through the Toronto Arts Council returns 17. Toronto's arts and culture sector is part of Ontario's $26 billion creative economy. Toronto's arts and culture workers are part of 250,000 people employed across the province, and we have the most per capita arts workers of anywhere in Canada. But last fall, I found myself sitting across the table from a federal cabinet minister who had received the exact same spiel that you have received about this economic return on investment. And they turned to me and said, sometimes a dollar is just a dollar, and we invest it because it's the right thing to do. Sometimes $1 invested in the TSO through the Toronto Arts Council is doubling the number of concerts that we hold just across the street at the Weston Recital Hall. Sometimes it's reaching more young families at Toronto Public Library branches in Scarborough, North York, and elsewhere through our Symphony Storytime program. Sometimes it's supporting seniors at Baycrest through our T-Sound Connection program, or bringing the joy of live music to more than 1,600 neurodiverse children and families through the relaxed performances held at Roy Thompson Hall. In Budget 2025, 1,000 years ago, a $2 million investment plus a 2.5 inflationary increase for the Toronto Arts Council helped the council provide critical operating funding increases to vital arts organizations across the city and to take in new operating grant clients, organizations that touch the lives of Torontonians in every corner of our city. There remains a significant funding gap requiring ongoing investment from all levels of government. Last year, the Toronto Arts Council alone saw the highest number of applications in its history, and although many were funded, almost $16.8 million of highly assessed projects could not be. That is 60% of the total granting budget for the Toronto Arts Council. In 2026, for reasons I think we have heard some of today, the city has undertaken not to include a 2.5 inflationary increase to the Toronto Arts Council and the local arts service organization, but I am here to say that in all instances across the city budget, more investment means more connection. More investment means more library performances and more performances across every corner of our city, touching the lives and creating connections, just as we have done for 104 years and counting. Sometimes $1 is just $1, and sometimes the investment is just the right thing to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? I have a question for you.
Yes, Councillor.
So when $1 is invested and $17 is economic activity is generated, what percentage of that revenue generation goes back to the city's operating budget?
Well, there is obviously no direct return to the city's operating budget because, as you well know, the city has but few revenue tools available to it, and that's not one of them.
And so for the levels of government that do directly benefit through revenue sharing through income tax and sales tax, do you think that all the more they should be incentivized to make that investment? Because in that case, the dollar really isn't simply $1. It actually gives them money back into their coffers.
Indeed, and I'm pleased to say that with the federal government's recent budget, the parliamentarians were very responsive to the return on investment and actually did make an increase to the funding, for example, to the Canada Council for the Arts.
And do you think it would benefit the city of Toronto to have tools, financial tools that would allow us to garner some of the benefits of investing in arts and economic development?
As a humble servant of arts and culture, that is above my pay grade. But as a citizen of the city of Toronto, I think that we're a city of 3 million people and should be treated with the same kind of democratic access to revenue that, say, provinces of 400,000 have.
Thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, moving on. Next, we have Alex Leduc, who is going to be online. Not online. Okay, we're going to move on to Sybil Sack, also online or not. Sybil's here. Okay, great.
Hello.
Hi, Sybil.
Hi.
Welcome to the Budget Committee meeting, and you have 5 minutes to make a deputation.
Thank you. I'm here to speak about housing and shelter for people with respiratory disabilities impacted by air quality, including those vulnerable to wildfire smoke, tobacco and other smoke, and other airborne chemical hazards. People with respiratory conditions are becoming increasingly and acutely ill in substandard housing. This creates critical foreseeable safety risks. Housing and shelter not designed for respiratory needs places people in environments that make them sicker and puts their lives at risk. This is an affordability problem. With enough money, it's possible to buy safe spaces on the market, and with funding, it's possible for the city to create and maintain them. But there are no subsidies for this, including for people with limited income. These needs and disabilities are often invisible, and people with these needs are made further invisible when the budget doesn't include them. Without safe alternatives, it can be easier to access support to apply for MAID than to get safe housing. This budget needs to support people to live. I'd like to list some ways that the city hasn't designed for these needs in housing, shelter, and emergency planning. Right now, there is no respiratory accommodated housing category in Toronto, not with TCHC, not through the Housing Secretariat, and not co-ops. There are no respiratory accommodated shelter spaces, and as a result, there is no respiratory accommodated Canada-Ontario housing benefit. There are no 24-hour respiratory accommodated clean air shelter spaces under the city's wildfire smoke policy. There is no rent gear to income stream for respiratory conditions, no market rent subsidy as an alternative, and no expedited housing pathway for this need. There are no building code or bylaw mechanisms that meaningfully address indoor air quality, especially in older buildings where grandfathering makes enforcement even harder. And there are no city-run convalescent spaces for people with respiratory needs when they are discharged from hospital. These absences reflect a category of need that has not been included by design, routinely deflected rather than tracked, or met with any program flexibility. And yet, accommodation is doable and involves clear, concrete action steps. 1, designate buildings in better condition. 2, maintain buildings to health standards. 3, proper ceiling and air filtration. 4, clear no smoking and scent-free policies. And 5, meet documented health accommodations. The city has a responsibility to accommodate respiratory disabilities in the spaces it funds and the programs it delivers. Isn't it time the city budget designate funds and spaces for respiratory accommodated housing, shelter, clean air spaces? Shouldn't the city have an office that tracks and coordinates indoor air quality needs across housing, shelter, and emergency planning? Clean indoor air is not a luxury. It's essential for health, safety, and dignity. We all deserve the right to breathe and to be well. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you for your deputation, Sybil. And next we have Eric Shatosky. Is he online? Yes. Hello, Eric. Can you hear me? Please unmute your microphone, Eric.
Sorry, hello.
Hi, good morning. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So my name is Eric Petoskey, and I live in the area of College Street West currently. I'm here today to advocate that the city reconsider the $93 million budget increase towards Toronto Police and instead invest in the social determinants of health that address the root causes of harm in our city. As the first speaker, Jane, described, increasing police presence does not improve safety in Toronto. It upholds the status quo of displacement and criminalization of marginalized communities at the expense of safety. With the closure of many of the supervised consumption sites due to provincial legislation, alongside the Canadian government's defunding $107 million towards refugee shelter funding in Ontario, it has become more imperative than ever the need to divest from police and reallocate those resources towards true community safety. As someone involved in mutual aid and organizing spaces for marginalized communities in the city, I have witnessed time and time again the violence and displacement inflicted by police towards the most vulnerable. Having experience doing downtown outreach, unhoused outreach downtown, I have personally witnessed the continued criminalization of vulnerable people in public spaces. One person that I know of and I've heard speak has said that throughout his years living unhoused in Ontario, he has received thousands of dollars in panhandling tickets from TPS, And rather than being provided housing by the city, he instead struggled for years to pay these fines, which prevented him from accessing housing. This is the story for many unhoused people who in Toronto we know are disproportionately racialized and Indigenous. And rather than gaining access to the resources they need, they are continuously surveilled, monitored, and forced into the cycle of the criminal legal system by TPS. While the increase in shelters as a result of the shelter infrastructure plan is a step in the right direction, such investments mean little if Toronto continues to fund the police who exist to uphold property relations. Money given to the police is money taken away from providing a sustainable foundation of social determinants of health that would alleviate police interactions in the first place. This past year alone, we have witnessed multiple violent encampment evictions enforced by TPS and security, perhaps most notably the one at St. Stephen's in the Fields Anglican Church in Kennington Markets, as well as the one at Dufferin Grove in October. As anyone who has worked with or has experience with being unhoused will tell you, many of these evicted from encampments do not receive access to sustainable long-term housing, but rather become further displaced in the streets of Toronto. By maintaining the continuous funds towards TPS, our city enables such violence directed at the most vulnerable to essentially continue and be perpetuated. True community safety means investing in community, not police. And this is something that the city budgets, I believe, as well as many others, does not adequately address. The TPS budget could be reallocated into the following streams: increased wages for public health nurses, as many of the speakers beforehand spoke on; increased funding towards unhoused outreach and transitions to supportive housing, renter protections; funding towards the expansion of crisis response teams, safe beds, and intensive care management, as well as funding towards youth outreach and opportunities, in addition to funding towards alternatives to gender-based violence. These are all recommendations brought forth by such organizations as Toronto Neighborhood Centers, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, as well as the Toronto Drop-In Network, alongside many other progressive organizations who, for a long time have, recommended alternatives to funding the police, as well as in their reports, Rethinking Community Safety, A Path Forward for Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you for making a deputation. Any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today. Next, we have Alex Salton. Is Alex here? Great. Thank you for coming in the cold. And you have 5 minutes. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors. My name is Alex Salton, a Toronto resident who depends on reliable and affordable public transit to get around the city. I wanted to come out on this chilly morning to express my support for the budget's proposed measures to keep transit affordable for all Torontonians. I also hope to see the city increase its investments in faster, more reliable transit service by implementing rapid TO transit priority lanes, improving wayfinding and signage, and advocating for increased funding from federal and provincial governments. Since I moved to Toronto in 2018, my commutes have gotten longer because of slow zones on the subway and streetcars and buses that get stuck behind left-turning vehicles. It's come to the point where I sometimes avoid taking the TTC, choosing to ride a bike or even just walk instead. But one positive development from the past couple years is that despite hoping for better service, fares have remained frozen and affordable. I can't tell you what a difference it makes over the course of the year. If fares were increased, I would probably go further out of my way to find alternative means of getting around. The city can build on the success of the continuing fare freeze by introducing fare capping, a policy that could save transit riders like me hundreds of dollars every year. It's great to see fare capping introduced in the budget, but I hope to see the city roll out the program even faster with a lower threshold, as in fewer rides before they get to enjoy free rides for the rest of the month. The next best investment the city can make with this increasing budget, is speeding up transit vehicles and increasing reliability. As someone who frequently travels between downtown and North York, it is frustrating to be delayed by slow zones and weekend subway closures. Additionally, when traveling downtown on our streetcar network, I often resort to the rule, if you can't see the streetcar, just start walking. By increasing investments in our transit system, we can keep up with state-of-good repair work while rolling out new and expanded rapid TO bus lanes. To wrap up, I encourage the city to follow through with freezing and capping of fares while improving service by rolling out rapid TO and securing adequate funding to keep our existing transit running. Thanks for listening to my deputation today.
Thank you. Are any questions of the deputant? Great. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much.
Okay, next we have Grace Shin. Is Grace online? Great, thank you. Hi, Grace.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hi, my name is Gracian. I'm a lifelong citizen and resident of Toronto, and I'm speaking today with Progress Toronto. I grew up in North York, but I until recently lived in the Moss Park area. And today I wanted to speak about a rather unconventional subject, public toilet availability. And I wanted to speak specifically about the city's commitment to the park washroom enhancement program included in this year's budget. So to backtrack, when I was growing up in North York, I never saw human feces out in the open. It was only after moving downtown and in more recent years that it became a regular occurrence. Human feces out in the open is a public health hazard. It's frankly really disgusting to see, and it's embarrassing for our city. I've only seen this issue downtown, which means that it disproportionately affects unhoused individuals who have nowhere to relieve themselves in a decent and dignified manner. It also disproportionately affects individuals who live downtown and have to deal with this on a regular basis. So I was excited to see when the city introduced the Park Washroom Enhancement Program, which is dedicated to improve 125 park bathrooms in the next 6 years. Yet this year's budget only allocates about $108 million additional dollars of funding to be spread and used between 2026 and 2034. That's about $10 million per year, and it's only about 1% of the total capital budget. While this added funding is promising, what we urgently need is more bathrooms, period, for unhoused individuals for the public. And these bathrooms need to be fully operational throughout the winter. Currently, Toronto has 425 public bathrooms, but only 153 are operational in the winter. If we consider that there are 14,500 unhoused people in Toronto, and each operational bathroom has maybe 3 or 4 stalls, that would still only accommodate up to 3% of the entire unhoused population at any given time. And for a city that is winter half of the year, we need to have more public toilet access. In 21st century North America, we really shouldn't be seeing feces out in the public or forcing people to relieve themselves in the public. Unhoused folk shouldn't have to shop at a store or buy fast food just so that they can use the bathroom. We can't keep ignoring their basic needs or force them to pay to use the restroom. We should want a better city, and we should want better for its citizens. Along with better social services and TTC improvements, more bathrooms can enhance the quality of our lives and the lives of unhoused people. And in addition to affordable housing that will, in the long term, serve their needs. So today I'm asking for an additional commitment in the Park Washroom Enhancement Program so that the city can provide more winterized bathrooms and more bathrooms overall. And this could come in the form of permanent bathrooms or even temporary bathrooms. As the previous speaker, Eric, suggested, this can come from divestments or allocating different funding sources into the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace, for your deputation. Any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you. Next, we have Daniel Warner. Is Daniel here in person or not online? Okay. We'll move to Kaya Osborne. Is Kaya online? Great. Hello, Kaya. Can you please unmute, Kaya?
Zoom Workplace. Copilot vertical bar JAWS Professional. Cisco Webex Meetings - Google Chrome. Cisco Webex Meetings - microphone recording. Cisco bookmark this tab button. Cisco Webex Meet audio options button as pop up. Start video button to activate video options button at share content button. More options button menu. Press space. Leave webinar button.
Hi, Kaya. Can you
Participants to
is your
activate.
accessibility button on?
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My apologies. I'm using my JAWS, so I was trying to unmute. I'm just going to flip my screen so I can get started. Thank you for your
JAWS Professional.
patience.
To move to an item, press the arrow keys. JAWS, Cisco Webex meetings dash group deputation city budget dash compatibility. This council can show leader. Alt control dash. Slower.
Okay, apologies. It's a little bit glitchy today for me, but I'll get
No
started.
worries.
Thank you for your patience.
No worries. Just let us know when you're ready.
Wonderful.
Good morning, members of Count Blank.
Okay, I'm ready.
Good
Great,
morning,
thank
members
you.
of Count Blank.
All right. Thank you very much for your patience, everyone. And thank you, City Council, for having me here today to speak. I'm a Black woman with vision loss. I'm here representing the sight loss community as well as the GTA Disability Coalition.
Good morning, member. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Kay Osborne, and the GTA Disability. I am here to urge
I'm here to
council
urge council to invest meaningfully in accessible healthcare for Torontonians living with sight loss, especially those living with compounded barriers, especially with disabilities, race, income, age, or language. Across Canada, estimated 7.4% of people ages 15 over have a sight disability. That's nearly 2.2 million Canadians who are blind, partial sight, or deafblind. Many require specialized care and supports to participate fully in everyday life.
Locally, more than
570,000 Toronto residents live with a disability, and this number continues to grow as our population ages. For these residents, accessing health care is not seamless, and these barriers include inaccessible appointment booking systems and health information, clinics and hospitals difficult to navigate, inadequate wayfinding, medical forms resulting and results are not in accessible formats. And that, for example, not readily available in digital formats for screen readers like myself.
Frontline staff
which have limited knowledge and training on accommodating persons with disabilities as well as persons with sight loss. These barriers are not minor. They contribute to delayed diagnosis, poor health outcomes, emergency room use, and avoidable health inequities. Accessible health care is about equity, dignity, and the basic right to receive care safely and independently. The City of Toronto's 2026 budget sets a tax-supported budget of $18.9 billion and a $63.1 billion capital plan over 10 years, focused on affordability, mobility, and services that Torontonians rely on. This is a powerful opportunity to embed accessibility into core services and infrastructure. While municipal government matters, even though healthcare delivery is a provincial responsibility, the city shapes whether people can access care through transportation services like Wheeltrans, which have 4.4 million projected rides in 2026, demonstrating the demand and reliance on accessible transit to get to healthcare appointments. Public health programming within the city's budget that touches preventative care and community supports. Municipal leadership can make a difference between preventative care and crisis care. Accessible systems reduce emergency costs, strengthen independence, and reduce health inequities. Investments here are both a human rights imperative under the AODA and the Ontario Human Rights Code, and the cost-effective public policy choice. So here's some key recommendations for this funding cycle.
1. Invest in
accessible health infrastructure. And again, I mentioned wayfinding, accessible materials, so that persons with sight loss who are blind, deafblind can have readily access.
Fund disability and sight loss training.
So funding sight loss training.
Page 3. 2.
Number 2, expand accessible health information and communication. Ensure appointment reminders, results, and consent forms are all again in digital formats.
Education with 3.
And number 3, fund community-led disability-informed health programs. A dedicated funding stream for disability-led organizations will support preventative health education, mental health, and system navigation programs, especially those for racialized, Indigenous, and low-income communities that face compounded barriers. In closing,
accessible
accessible and equitable healthcare is not a luxury,
it is a
it is
necessity.
a necessity.
When
When
Torontonians
Torontonians with sight loss cannot access healthcare, this ripples across the health system in our community. With the 2026 budget process underway, this council can show leadership by ensuring that accessibility, dignity, and independence are priorities and in investments. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kaya. Any questions for the Seeing none. Thanks so much for joining us today. Next, we have Matt Nethersole online, and after him, we'll have Ricardo Costa, who is here in person. Okay, Matthew, can you please unmute your microphone?
Lost sound. I can't hear you guys anymore.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, great. I can hear you too.
Wonderful. Okay, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Matt Nethersole, and I'm a resident of Ward 4, Parkdale High Park, and I'm here today with Progress Toronto. Parkdale is home to many Torontonians who suffer from mental health challenges and homelessness. The winter is a particularly challenging time of year for the unhoused population. Many unhoused folks will die this winter due to exposure, as they do every year in Toronto. I can't help but think about this every time I pass by the senior citizen who's been living in the bus station at the corner of O'Hara and Queen. Every time I pass by, I check to see if he's made it through another cold winter night. Then there's the man who sits cross-legged in the snow in front of Pizza, hoping someone will buy him a slice. And Jason, who sleeps curled up against the radiator in the mailroom of my building, or the two different women who sleep in my stairwell some nights. Sadly, stories like these are not at all uncommon in Parkdale. We do what we can to take care of our neighbors, but a slice of pizza and some spare change only goes so far. We look to you, our local leaders, to use your empathy and good sense to allocate resources appropriately so that our most vulnerable citizens can improve their conditions. As members of city government, you have the power to structure the annual budget in a way that is empathetic to the growing number of Torontonians who are currently living below the poverty line. But where should this money come from? Well, one city service comes to mind. The Toronto Police has steadily received budget increases since 2021. This year alone, they have asked for an additional $93 million. That's on top of their whopping $1.22 billion budget, 7% of the total budget. The egregious overfunding of TPS is a slap in the face, particularly to racialized people, queer and trans people, and people with mental health challenges. These groups are more likely to experience poverty and job insecurity in Toronto and are also more likely to have violent or even deadly interactions with Toronto police. In 2024, the Ontario Human Rights Commission released a report that stated that TPS policing practices and activities disproportionately affect Black people and contribute to racial profiling and discrimination against them. When we overspend on police, we are paying for the unethical surveillance and persecution of vulnerable minorities. It's important to name that the biggest social indicator of criminality is not race or sexuality or gender, it's lack of employment. This is why, as has been said many times today, we need to divert funds from the TPS budget towards housing, jobs, and programs that help people to transition out of precarity. Toronto is bleeding out, and increasing the TPS budget is a Band-Aid solution. Change starts here, in the decisions you make in this room. Millions of people are relying on City Council and the Mayor to center people, not policing, in the dream for our collective future. We urge you, do not increase the Toronto police budget. Invest in residents, invest in social supports. We're counting on you.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today. Next, we have Ricardo Costa from the Weston King Neighborhood Center. Welcome, Ricardo, and just wanted to let August Peranoff know you are next if you're here. Okay, Ricardo, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, members of the Budget Committee, and thank you for giving me this brief but important chance to share my perspective today. Just a second. Sorry, I'm having a glitch here. Can you pause that for a second?
I've paused.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So my name is Rick Costa, and I'm coming to you as a member of the Lived Experience Advisory Group under the city's Poverty Reduction Office. I'm a former chairperson of the Weston chapter of Acorn Toronto, and most specifically as a proud board member of Weston King Neighborhood Centre, where I also volunteer and serve as lead hand for our Tuesday groceries, which is our version of a food bank. And above all, I'm a grateful service user. I want to talk to you about the importance of investing in drop-ins, not just as places of support, but as spaces where lives are stabilized, rebuilt, and reconnected to community. I am living proof of that fact. When I first came to Weston King Neighborhood Centre in 2017, it was as someone in deep crisis. I had lost everything in a house fire. I became unhoused for a time and was struggling to see any value in myself or my place in the world or any serious prospects of a future. My family was not there for me, and I'd pushed my friends away in despair and embarrassment for my situation. It was the Weston King Neighborhood Centre that stepped in to hold me together when I couldn't. My story is not unique. It is a common thread for many people who come through our doors. Many wind up navigating the same feelings of loss, brokenness, and despair. Some have no family to turn to. Others, like me, find themselves questioning their value after losing connections and community. Our drop-in center becomes their lifeline, providing not just resources, but a sense of belonging, dignity, and worth. Drop-in centers have the lowest barrier access points for people in crisis. In other words, when people seeking help or assistance do not meet thresholds elsewhere or have been turned away repeatedly from vital services, our doors are wide open. We provide meals, showers, laundry services, safety, connection, and practical help. We link people to essential resources, including housing, healthcare, and social services. But just as importantly, we provide dignity. We prioritize building trust through compassion and understanding. Staff training emphasizes empathy and de-escalation, ensuring that we create welcoming spaces where individuals feel a sense of respect and safety when returning to us. For some, this might sound abstract, but this is deeply personal to me. There's nothing like having someone metaphorically and literally hold you together in your darkest moments. That's what drop-ins like mine do every day for hundreds of people. Drop-ins don't just respond to emergencies, we prevent them. We are increasingly being asked to do more with less. Every week, the lineup grows longer. Food insecurity, housing crises, and mental health struggles are at an all-time high. Drop-ins reduce pressure on shelters, hospitals, and emergency services by helping people stabilize before things reach a breaking point. It saves the city from much higher downstream costs. Yet despite this rising demand, funding remains stagnant for such an enormous cornerstone of Toronto's social safety net. I am not here as a mere statistic. I'm a person who benefited directly from this kind of service that I'm now advocating for. Too often, the city's response to visible poverty has been to fund reactive measures, such as increasing police budgets, but those measures don't address the root causes of the crises we face. Drop-ins like Weston King Neighborhood Centre offer a proactive solution. We stabilize lives before they reach breaking points. We prevent crises from escalating, reducing strain on emergency services like shelters, hospitals, and police. Compassion-based care is not just humane, it's actually cost-effective. So we're asking the city leadership to consider a similar version and perspective to invest in drop-ins. I hope you recognize the potential we have to create lasting change when given the resources to do so. So in closing, please ensure that drop-ins remain robust, stable, and supported within the Toronto Shelter and Support Services operating budget. Funds like these once helped a guy like me who lost everything in a house fire completely turn his life around and dedicate his life helping other people turn their lives around, to help them become productive members of the community again. Thank you for your time and for considering this critical investment in our city's most vulnerable residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Any questions? So, Ricardo, I have a question.
Yeah.
So in this year's Toronto Shelter and Service budget, there is 20.5 million allocated for drop-ins and housing-focused client supports. And I'm just wondering, has that, I guess, grown with inflation, or do you know if that's stayed the same as last year? Because I can't tell from this budget note, and I will follow up with the division.
Yeah, please do. I'll tell you what, I have specific details that that I can forward to you through Monica Pierce, who's our manager, and Barbara Stone, who's our the president of the board. But mostly this is anecdotal coming from me and my lived experience. But I can tell you with our grocery giveaway program service, which is our version of a food bank, pre-pandemic, we had averaged about 75 to 80 people coming through, and it's similar for our meals that we serve every day. So weekly, we got 75 to 80 people pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic to this day, just this month, we broke a record at 165 people coming through to receive groceries. And also Second Harvest, who provides the food bank services and food. We're receiving less and less and less. So it's a multifaceted strain that we're struggling with, and we're still stagnant with funding. We're doing more. We need more help.
Yeah. Is there an alliance of the drop-in organizations across the city?
Yeah, it's the Toronto Drop-In Network, yeah.
And they would have metrics on the usage and the data that's collected across the network?
They most likely would, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming and for all the incredible work that you support to help some of the people who need the most help in our city. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Myers.
Okay. We have 2 more deputations before lunch. So next is August Paranoff, and I see you're coming down. Welcome, August.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
And you have 5 minutes.
My name is August Pernot. I live in Ward 15, Don Valley West. I'm a renter and a transit rider, and I think this budget is a good starting step in the right direction. I'm happy, for one, to see fare capping and a fare freeze for the TTC, making transit more affordable. I have never bought a Metro Pass in my life. When I was younger, I could never afford it anyways, and now as a young adult, I still find it hard to stomach $156 at the start of the month for a monthly pass. At the same time, I have to pay rent and bills. It also doesn't make sense to buy, as my job isn't a regular 9 to 5. I work for a nonprofit. I work unpredictable hours, and some days I find myself taking the TTC from North York to downtown to Scarborough all in one day. I can't always know if I'll need a monthly pass or not that month, so I never get it. The flexibility of fare capping is really helpful to me if it were to be passed. It gets rid of the high upfront cost of a monthly pass, unlocking more affordability for low-income riders who use the TTC a lot. And the number of times you use the TTC has no relation on whether or not you can afford to pay all those fares. As a young person trying to get by in this expensive city, a fare freeze and a fare cap helps ease the pinch of living here. Besides my living expensive, I'm also trying to save up so I can go back to school. I don't have parents to financially support me or family really, so measures like fare capping and other affordability measures really helps me get by on my own. Now, switching gears a little bit, I also want to mention how exciting it is that the budget will open all libraries 7 days a week. It's amazing how far our library system has come. As a kid growing up in Jane and Finch, there was never a library in nearby walking distance. The TPL Bookmobile, you know, that blue and white van that sometimes parks around the city, was my first public library experience. I was so excited to get my first library card. I brought it here today. It's a very old, bent, faded library card, but I hold it dearly to myself. And I was really excited to get it. Libraries are not just about books. It's a third space for people of all ages. It's a hub of any community. And nowadays, there's more library branches across Toronto today than when I was a kid, including where I used to live in Jane and Finch. And more people can walk to the library, especially here in North York. As I mentioned earlier, I also help run a nonprofit, and it has a very teeny tiny budget. We don't have a permanent office to work out of, so library spaces really help. And I also like volunteering for other community groups in the city, and libraries continue to be a space that we can meet and organize. So whether it's groups of kids studying for that upcoming test, old friends exchanging gossip over a newspaper, a newcomer learning English in a conversation circle, a person looking for peace and company at a knitting and crochet club, or a person in a precarious situation looking for work and need access to a computer so they can apply to jobs. You can have it all at the library, and that's part of what makes our city so great. And I love to see it open every day for every single Torontonian in this city. This kind of stuff makes me proud to live here. So please approve the fare freeze, the fare cap, and hopefully bring the fare cap down to 40 taps so it can have a real deep impact on affordability for transit riders, expand our library hours, and fund our community services. I also urge you to look into alternate revenue tools, like the parking levy, and also advocate for upper levels of government to fund their city, and also consider shifting money away from, say, the bloated police budget, so we can see further investment in transit, community services like libraries, like drop-ins that we really need, and also paying our workers fairly. That's also really important. So thank you.
Thank you, August. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for being with us today. And next we have Peter Jurgic. Is Peter online? Hi, Peter. How are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Well, still morning, I guess, members and of the Budget Committee. My name is Peter Jurgetz, and I'm here today as a member of the public to speak about cycling infrastructure funding in the proposed budget. I bike as a primary mode of transportation. I don't own a car, and this is by choice. And since I moved in Toronto in 2013, I've seen a significant expansion of the cycling infrastructure in the city. And I've seen firsthand how much that expansion matters. It has changed who feels safe on the street and whether cycling is a realistic option rather than a risky one. I'm here today because the proposed funding levels represent a major shift away from that progress. Under the current proposal, the city plans to invest approximately $132.5 million over the next 10 years in cycling infrastructure. That represents a sharp reduction compared to recent years. For instance, in 2024, the city invested approximately $289 million, and in 2025, $175 million. For context, the City of Montreal is planning to invest over $430 million in cycling infrastructure in 2026 alone. This is not a minor adjustment. It's a difference in the order of magnitude. It is a fundamental shift in priorities. Cycling infrastructure is not a niche project. It is safety infrastructure. Physically separated bike tracks, cycle tracks protect people on bikes from cars, and there is growing evidence they also make streets feel safer for pedestrians. This is especially important on wide, multi-lane arterial roads here in North York, where traffic speeds are higher and crossing distances are longer. When protected cycling infrastructure has been added to such streets, even in short segments, the street environment becomes calmer and more predictable for everyone. Cycling is also essential for many residents, including people living with disabilities. Not all disabilities are visible, and not all are compatible with driving or with crowded or noisy transit. I will add that I live with a disability that makes driving and many transit options rather challenging. For me, cycling is the most accessible and reliable way to move through the city. When cycling infrastructure is fragmented and unsafe, that independence is taken away. And I want to stress that I'm not unique in this. Many Torontonians rely on cycling because it is the mode that allows them to move independently and predictably. It is important to acknowledge the broader policy impact. Recent provincial legislation, including Bill 212 and Bill 60, restrict how municipalities can allocate road space. These restrictions often force cities into more complex and more expensive design solutions if they want to expand cycling infrastructure at all. In this context, reducing funding is not neutral. It makes implementation slower and more fragmented. This also has a public health dimension. Encouraging cycling reduces local air pollution and improves air quality along major corridors, benefiting people who live, walk, and wait for transit nearby. The number of people using bikes for everyday transportation continues to grow, including through bike share. These trips are to school, to work, and appointments. Yet Toronto's cycling network remains fragmented. Connecting existing lanes would encourage more people to bike and reduce pressure on the road network. Prioritizing cars further is not sustainable. Encouraging more driving is not a solution. When Toronto reduces funding for cycling infrastructure, it is making a specific choice. It is choosing to slow safety improvements, limit transportation options, and reinforce car dependency. At a time when affordability, accessibility, public health, and climate resilience all demand the opposite, I urge you to reconsider the proposed level of investment in cycling infrastructure. Maintaining and ideally increasing funding is not about bike lanes. It's about safety, equity, and long-term functioning of the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for making a deputation today. And we just want to do a last call for two of the deputants who registered but didn't appear at that time, Alex Leduc and Daniel Warner. Alex Leduc, no, not here and not online. Okay, so that means we are done with this morning's deputations. And so we're going to move a motion to receive the presentations. Maybe Councillor Myers can read the motion.
That the Budget Subcommittee receive the public presentations on the 2026 capital and operating budgets for information.
Great, and we will reconvene at, okay, so all in favor, that carries. And what time are we reconvening today? 1:30. Okay, so if those of you are interested in staying and listening to other Torontonians, we welcome you to stay, have lunch at the North York Centre, and we'll be reconvening here at 1:30. Thank you. Oh, we're adjourning this meeting. It'll be officially a new meeting at 1:30, but same people.